Or not. Okay, so we're live. We should be going live. Now. Yep. Yep. It's receiving content.
I just want to say I am playing Zelda while listening to a certain Metroid Prime song, and it's matching up like perfectly. It's awesome.
That is awesome.
It's the Sky.
Did you guys notice that when you use the magnet power, that it kind of sound like it kind of reminds me of Metroid Prime for some reason. Specifically the magnet power.
When you're yeah.
I mean, when you mention it, and I think about it, I see what you're saying. But I think it's just kind of like it's a futuristic sort of technology that Link is using, and Metroid Prime has like futuristic technology everywhere, so they use similar sounding sounds.
Yeah, it also looks like the plasma. I think it's called the plasma weapon in Metroid Prime. Also, kind of that way. Yeah.
Plasma beam.
Yeah.
Yeah. We got the plasma beam.
Let me see. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to tweet
It's
this
running.
out. Yeah, I think it is running.
Stupid commercial. Okay.
Oh,
What commercial?
She's checking out the stream.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Okay. So, how's everyone doing?
Good.
Great.
Awesome.
Great. How is life now in the promised land of being a Switch owner?
I love it,
Pretty
man.
awesome so far.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely having a blast with it. It's just it's still, I don't know about you guys, but it's still like settling in that we have a system like this that you can take on the go. You know what I mean? Like it's just unheard. It's unlike anything before. Where I mean, if you had if you had like a Shield tablet or whatever, then you might be used to something like that. But I'm sure not.
It's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. I've had that same thought though. Like I'm holding the system in my hand a lot, or even when I'm playing. Just whenever I'm playing the system, a lot of times I'm just thinking, "Wow, I actually feel like this. This is a reason to upgrade. Like it's not just a straight up graphical upgrade.
Oh no way.
Like I feel like it's a true evolution of a console. You know, because when you think about it, I mean, yeah, the PS4 is awesome, but how different is it really from a PS3? You know?
No, not different at all. No, yeah.
Aside from the fact that it supports VR, which is it's a separate console altogether, you know, and
yeah,
it doesn't feel that different, but the Switch feels different to me. It's this console that I can stay constantly engaged with because the game can bend to whatever I'm doing, so yeah, it's nice.
Have you guys what other games have you guys been playing on besides Zelda? Like a lot.
I tried the Snipper Clips demo with my brother. I think it's really good. I'm gonna get the game.
Yeah, dude, right?
That the other day.
It's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Have you played it, Sean?
Yeah, me and my girlfriend were playing for like 2 hours the other night.
Yeah, it's a blast.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I've been playing. I played a lot of Neo, not Neo, Remix today. The Fast Racing.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, this
Love
game.
that game.
Oh, it's amazing, man.
Doesn't feel like an indie game at all.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. I'm not good at racing games. I honestly don't really like racing games. Besides Mario Kart, I'm not. I just don't really like them. And I'm hooked onto this game, man. And it's addictive to when you start like opening up the harder levels. Like you want to play those, man, because it's just so the speed. It's like an adrenaline rush.
One thing
that you get, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a big racing nut. When I say big racing nut, I'm a big arcade racer nut. Like I don't like the Forzas or the Gran Turismos.
Yeah,
I
like boring.
I like the F-Zeros, the Mario Karts, the Wipeout and Electro Thunder and those
Did you ever play
arcade
Burnout?
racers. Burnout, yeah, Burnout was awesome.
Love Burnout.
I love
Did you guys ever play Extreme G?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother was talking about that the other day. Actually.
Or is that an
Yeah,
arcade racer?
that's a good game.
Yeah, on the N64.
Yeah, on the N64. Yeah,
Did you guys play Cruis'n USA?
that's the only other racer I can think of that I liked that wasn't Mario Kart.
Did you ever play Cruis'n USA?
Yeah, yeah.
That's my first N64 game.
Cruis'n
don't like
USA is so good. I mean, it
I love
seems
it.
really crappy, but by today's standards, like you have like these 2D women jumping in. It's just like the graphics seem terrible. We have like boxes driving on these flat surfaces with. It's kind of like a over glorified Game Boy Advanced racer with better
Right.
colors. But it's I don't know. It's pretty cool. So
It's still at my local arcade. Like the same 94.
Wait, you have
Really?
local arcade?
what?
Yeah, Fun Spot. It's like the largest arcade in the world.
Really?
No big deal.
When you
Yeah.
say like,
No
you mean
big
like
deal.
seriously? Huh.
Well, that's what it says when you go there. It's like all over the place. Like, that's their slogan.
You ever heard of the best burger in the country?
Yeah.
Best coffee on the road. Like, so, I mean, I'll take it with a grain of salt, but I mean, maybe. Sup, Tristan?
I mean, it's pretty
How you
famous.
doing?
It's on TV.
Oh, I mean, I don't actually doubt you. Just, you know.
I don't know what it means by large. I don't know if it means like the amount of floor space or like the amount of arcade games it has or
Right.
I don't know.
Like or maybe they just mean like the property is the largest technically or something like that. Really big backyard. Or
We got an arcade down here on the beach, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I picked.
Do you
up
remember
a really-
those days, Andy? You remember
What,
the arcade?
going to the arcade?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, not official arcade, but every like Pizza Hut and every like pizza place had like 3 or 4 arcade machines, which they don't anymore. Like
Yeah.
most Pizza Huts don't even have dine-in anymore. But yeah, I remember those days, man. Like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game, the Simpsons arcade game, the X-Men. Remember? Have you ever played the X-Men arcade game?
Mhm.
Oh, dude, that game is amazing. There's like 6 players all at once that you can play.
Huh.
That was pretty cool.
I remember going to the Pizza Hut in Baltimore County, and they used to have those Pac-Man tables that, where
Oh, yeah.
the arcade screen is like on a table.
Those are cool.
That was like the 80s. Yeah, I miss the arcades. I used to go to my local arcade and play the Nintendo. They had like a choice where you could pick the 10 different Nintendo games.
Really?
You remember that? Yeah.
It was an official Nintendo arcade?
It was and they had like the Legend of Zelda, and you could play for a certain amount of time, and you could pick the games. They had Mike
Oh,
Tyson's
wow.
Punch-Out.
Man, I wonder how much that goes for right now. Like to get one of those.
Hey Andy.
Yeah.
What's that picture you just posted on Twitter? Where,
Um,
and Zelda, where are you?
Oh, that's the Zora place.
Oh, I haven't been there yet.
Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Sup, Alex?
About this game, like I gotta be honest. Like my review, did you read it, Andres?
I
I know
did.
you read it.
I did.
And I keep like thinking about that every time I pick up this game. Like it keeps surprising me. Like when I played Xenoblade Chronicles X, I thought to myself, I really did. I said, this new Legend of Zelda. I kept thinking this. I'm like, there's no way that it's gonna look better than the Xenoblade Chronicles X. Like I kept thinking like, how can Zelda? To me, it would be bland compared to this world. And I thought that Xenoblade Chronicles X was like the most amazing open world game that I've ever seen. Like as far as like the way it looked,
I mean, it's
But
like
man,
probably
this blows that out of the
largest.
water, and that's incredible to think that.
yeah.
Like
I mean,
I'm
after finally
surprised.
playing Breath of the Wild and putting in over 100 hours into it, like it's not technically the largest open world ever, but it's a very sizable one compared to many, and it's so dense. Like there's so much in there, so much things to find. I'm still finding stuff. I played way too much last night, and it was insane like how much stuff I was finding. I finally met the horse god, which I think a lot of people probably met early on, but I met him later on, and it was
The what?
crazy. The horse god.
Oh, with the blue light? Is that the thing with the blue light?
He kind of
Okay.
looks like a great fairy until you see him.
Oh, okay. All right. No, I didn't even know about him, but okay.
But in the beginning areas for Pharaon region, there is a lake of the horse god. Check that out. You'll see some interesting stuff. But anyways, the point is, and I just ran into another village that I had not. I knew there was a village in that area, but I had not found it yet, and I just ran into a new village for myself last night after
cool.
already putting in over 100 hours into the game. So, like, there are some regions that I haven't really explored that much. Like, I've explored the Goron area, the Zora area extensively, but Pharaon and the northeastern area, like above where the Rito live, like those areas, I still have a lot to explore. Northern Hyrule, there's still a lot to explore for me, like beyond the Lost Woods. And there's also the Gerudo, I've like touched it, but there are still a lot of things I need to find. So it's just, this game is massive. It's massive. And I'm really glad that even though I've enjoyed the story, that I still feel like there's so much more for me to play and enjoy. Like, I technically am not even halfway done with the game. Hey, Sean, you're typing, right?
Me? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a little loud. Is there a way you can move the keyboard away from the microphone?
Nope.
Okay.
Hey,
I have a suggestion.
what percentage are you at, Andres? If you don't.
Is there a way I can? I don't even know how I can check my percentage, to be honest.
Oh, I don't either. But people keep posting it, so I'm pretty sure there has to be a way to check it.
I wonder if people are just estimating that, because what we do know is that there's supposed to be 120 shrines, 900 Korok puzzles.
No, they're not, because they're giving specific percentages. They're like, I'm only 13.2.
I saw that from someone tweeting. I don't know how I can tell. To be honest. I have no idea. I have no idea. But
the great thing about
I'm not even halfway done technically.
I just love looking at the map and looking at a certain area and thinking, that area looks kind of weird. Let me go check that out.
Right.
And then you go and you're completely blown away. And it's happened to me so many times already, like where you go to the place and you're like, what the hell is this? Like, you know, it's so cool, man. Just keeps doing that.
Yeah, I know. It's just, there's always stuff to find and see. Have you guys seen the... I don't know, I guess I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't seen it, but like there are certain serpentine creatures in the game. And the first one I found was on a giant snowy mountain. And
I found that one, yeah.
That was the first one I found, so I didn't even know how I would encounter them. And when I came upon this mountain, and I saw this giant thing covered with all this darkness and I don't know what, I was like, oh my god, this thing is the size of 3 mountains and it's going to kill me.
Yeah.
I was
I've seen
terrified.
quite a few.
What?
I've seen quite a few of them. There's one that's multiple. Fire. There was a electricity one.
I think there's only 3.
Yeah.
But I found all 3. But it's crazy. You can just kind of like see them at different points of Hyrule. Like the last night, I had already found it, but I was in a part where I guess it comes out of, and I just jumped over a rock, and all of a sudden this thing that is like literally like 1,000 times larger than me was right in my face, and I was like, oh. Yeah. Well, it's time to mine for some resources, because I don't know if you guys know about them already, but you can acquire some valuable stuff from them.
No, they have their own theme music too, which is kind of cool.
Oh, Tristan's telling me that once you complete the game, there's a completion indicator that appears on the bottom left of your map screen.
Oh, okay. All right. I thought so. I thought that was...
Actually, you know what? I'm going to check my map screen now, so I can answer that question. But do you guys have any thoughts on your reviews or my review for the game?
Are we jumping into the official podcast right now?
Yeah, I think it's time we start the official podcast.
Yeah.
But anyways, I mean, I thought we kind of were already on the subject because we're going to talk Zelda first, and we're kind of talking about it, you know. But so I can see that it's telling me that I am 29.77% done.
Wow.
So I am still not even 30% done with the game.
And how many hours have you put in?
100.
Apparently 100.
Wow.
You only got 300 more hours to go, man.
Well, I mean, now there's less wandering and more. I have no idea. I'm probably never going to get to 100.
I wonder if the percentage is also calculated based off of the Korok seeds.
No, it has to be. I think.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, I'm not sure. I feel like it has to be.
Or quests. Oh, yeah, also quests.
I feel like
quests.
here's the thing. I'm more than halfway done with all the shrines. I'm probably a third done with all the side quests. Actually, I can double check that too. Isn't it amazing? I can just check really quickly. Adventure log. I've done 31 out of 76 side quests and 18 out of 42 shrine quests. So actually, I have quite a few shrine quests left. More than half. But I'm about a third done. More than a third done with the side quests, though. So I only have like 150 Korok seeds, though, and there's supposed to be 900. So
Jeez.
I feel like if they are a part of the percentage, they're a small portion. Like I don't think it's 900 to the denominator, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. There's just so much to this game. I'm really excited because this game is massive, and I'm gonna be playing it for a while. But then there's a DLC that's coming, and that's just gonna add even more value and time to this game. And I'm excited about that because for a few different reasons. But I feel like this game deserves Game of the Year regardless of what comes out later this year. Regardless, I don't think it's highly unlikely that there's anything that's gonna come out that's gonna come even close to the level of critical reception this game has received. I mean, look, what was the last time a game had this close to the same critical reception as Breath of the Wild? It was 2008.
Grand Theft Auto?
Yeah, that was 9 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying the odds of another game being that high in terms of ratings it's highly unlikely that there's gonna be another game like that this year. But I feel
Maybe
like
Mario.
No, it's not gonna happen.
You don't know that?
It's gonna be a great game. I'm confident in that. I am very confident it's gonna be a great game, but I'm pretty confident that the game's still, even though it's going to be an amazing game, it's still not going to be rated as high as the Galaxy games, which are, both of them are considered like in the top 10 highest rated games of all time as well. It's probably going to be lower than that. But it doesn't mean it's a bad game. We're talking about the best games of all time here, so like, even a top 100 game is an amazing game that would be a Game of the Year candidate in almost any other year that Breath of the Wild didn't come out in. So the only reason I bring it up is because Breath of the Wild is coming out so early in the year, and I feel like, though I don't know because I rarely really pay attention, that because it's coming out so early, that by the time it comes, time to actually decide what game is the Game of the Year, people will already have forgotten about it, if that's even possible. But the fact that they have DLC is going to remind people, hey, look, Zelda's here, we're still the best.
Yeah.
So, and I actually am really excited about hard mode, even if it literally just makes things, like, if there's no AI boost or anything, even if it's just I take harder hits and things are a little faster or something, though I feel like it's going to be a bit more detailed than that. I'm really excited about that, because this game is challenging, and I just love challenges, so I want this game to kick my ass. So I'm looking forward to that hard mode.
Have any of you, is it worth buying the $20 season pass? Is it worth buying now? Well, what do you get? I know you get like 3 chests, but I know you get that stupid Switch shirt. But besides that, is there anything right now that's
one of those chests
that's
includes a Switch shirt?
Oh,
Yeah.
I watched the newest Nintendo voice chat, and one of the guys said that he just got like bomb arrows in one of the other chests.
Yeah.
And like nothing else really.
nothing.
So,
Okay.
So yeah, from what I gather, it's nice to have in the beginning of the game, but it's not really a game. It's just like it's almost insignificant now. Now you put in so much time
Yeah.
into the game. So, I mean, I'm gonna get it when I feel like buying it because I don't need the early whatever Switch shirt. There's so much other stuff that'll come afterwards. When is the first DLC scheduled? Like this summer?
Yeah, this is summertime, and the next one is fall.
Okay. Yeah. So
Yeah, I picked it up, and you just get a shirt and nothing important. I just got it just to get it out of the way
Yeah.
because I don't want to spend $20 6 months from now.
So, there's something that Tristan suggested that I bring up, so I'll just bring it up. Actually, I mean, it's worth mentioning. Did you guys hear about that? Apparently, in the credits, there is we learned that there was an American developer, like a young American developer,
I saw
that got
that.
to work
Yeah.
on Breath of the Wild
Yeah.
with an entire Japanese team, like a few hundred Japanese developers. So, I mean, I didn't look into it besides from that, but I mean, that sounds really cool. Like, if I was actually into game design and I got a chance to be a part of the Zelda team, like, wow, that would just... How does that happen? Like, that's one heck of an internship. You know?
The guy had to have skill and luck.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe contacts, which is also, I guess, in the luck category. So, yeah, that just seems so amazing. But actually, I watched a podcast that I'm pretty confident is better than the Nintendo Voice Chat podcast, at least this week. Game Informer had a podcast with 4 developers about Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Developers, not journalists like what we're aspiring to be, but actual like developers. And one of them was Ken Levine, the guy from behind BioShock, and they were basically just saying that this is like the best game ever, and like what they were able to accomplish with in terms of designing this game, and like because they see things that most people don't see because they develop games, they know how hard certain things are to accomplish, and they're just like they're so shocked at how polished this game is compared to other open world games, and they were making a great point that this is essentially Nintendo's first like game into the open world genre as it is in the modern age, and they nailed it. They literally created the best open world game on their first try.
Yeah. A lot of people don't think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
And that just kind of shuts up everyone about the reviews and how I got perfect reviews. And this is it's also people that do that are discrediting journalists who've been around for decades covering this kind of stuff. They're discrediting their hard work and their history in video games. When they give a score like that, it's for a good reason, and the same thing that these developers now know, those guys know as well because they've been in the industry that long. So that whole thing of, oh, it doesn't deserve it, all these 10s. No, it deserves all these 10s. It's for a good reason. It's a fantastic game.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people who are what I would like to call naysayers. And not even, some of them is simply out of hate or bias, but some people I think just in general don't want to raise the hype of things. They kind of want to equalize everything. Like I was watching a show, I don't know if it was from the Nintendo Enthusiast, I don't think it was. But it was one of those, gamer shows on YouTube that has like some very gorgeous lady and then some nerdy guy. Right? That cliche. And they were just saying, yeah, well, they were talking about the whole controversy of the reviews and some people complaining that it's buying out perfect scores. And of course it isn't. Like, Nintendo doesn't need that. If you watch Game for a podcast, that's just one of many examples where developers literally tell you, it's like, yeah, we think Nintendo destroys us and we're really good at making games. Like, Ken Levine, like, he made BioShock one of the best games ever, and he's just, like, bowing down to Nintendo because they're that good at development. But, these people, like, were just, like, saying, yeah, we don't think it's buying out, but, people I think are just hyped up about Zelda. They're like, oh, it's a good game. I don't know if it necessarily is a perfect game with perfect scores everywhere, but it's a pretty good game. And, like, they're not hating on the game, but that's kind of, like, at least part of like what I would call naysayers because they don't want to see it for what it is, and what it is something that is changing the industry. It is a big deal. It is one of the greatest games ever. It's not just another good game. It is something that's going to change everything.
And they're certainly right to an extent. It's not a perfect game because no game is ever perfect. No matter how good the game is, It's never perfect because in the end, it's all subjective material. Just
Right.
like if all these movies that win Academy Awards and they win 4 stars, there's people that hate those kind of movies and they see tons of things that are wrong with those movies. It doesn't mean that they don't deserve those accolades. It's the same
Right.
way. Like,
Right.
you're going to discredit this 10 out of 10 score from Breath of the Wild. You got to discredit every 10 out of 10 score that's ever been given for any game. That's ridiculous.
Right, and I think
No.
a lot of people put too much value or stock into the number itself. Like, a number is so arbitrary. Like, I was debating the score for Breath of the Wild. Like, I gave it a 10, but if I were to do it, like, to the 10th power, I might, like, not give it a perfect score. I essentially round it up. But that doesn't mean I don't think it's the greatest game ever. That doesn't, it's just, it's a score. Like, I assess, the different, like, minor issues and what could have been done and how it can improve. Like, it's just, I think, like, it's one of the reasons why I like Game Explain's reviews, because they don't actually assign a score. I just like it when you literally talk about the game and you say whether you like it or you don't, and what do you think the game is for. I think Breath of the Wild is essentially for everyone, because anyone who's a gamer should play Breath of the Wild, because it's going to basically, it's just so immersive. It's the most immersive world I've ever seen in a video game, period. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I'd give scores because that's just kind of like what everyone does, and it's kind of fun to do it, but ultimately it's an arbitrary number.
It is. And ultimately, the job of reviewers, their job is to basically tell you whether or not you should purchase the game. That's it. That's what their job is.
Yep.
That's to protect consumers' money. That's what their job is. So basically, if they give you a 10 out of 10, it's saying you'll have no issue if you purchase this game. You'll like it. A 9 out of 10 is you'll probably like it. You should go like that, and so on and so forth. So you get that. You probably shouldn't buy this game if it's a 2 out of 10. That's all there's. That's what the score means.
I think giving scores also gets a little bit more complicated if you look at games that aren't the full $60 price. So, for example, Fast RMX is a great racing game, very polished, very solid, but I would only give it an 8 out of 10. I don't think it should be held up as a 9 out of 10 racing game,
Right.
But at the same time, it's $20. So, like,
Yeah.
even though it's an 8 out of 10, I recommend it to anyone who's into racing games. Because if you like racing games even a little bit, you should buy Fast RMX, because it's $20. It's so cheap, and it's a very solid, very easy pick up and play game. Well, it's not easy, but it's a pick up and play kind of game. You know what I mean? It's an arcade racer. So,
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, I'm just saying that scores, take them with a grain of salt, regardless of how good or bad it is. Like, you have to listen to what the details are, and you have to decide based off what people are saying if you think it'll be something that's good for you. In the case of Breath of the Wild, if you haven't played this game yet, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. So,
The sad thing is, I mean, these days opinions. Everybody has an opinion, and there's a lot of people out there who use reviews as ammunition. You know what I mean?
right.
And it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it shows to what this game is, because I wouldn't say that about a lot of Nintendo games. I wouldn't say like you must play this game, or you know what I'm saying, like even something like Smash Brothers. It's not for everybody. Like definitely not Star Fox. I'm not going to use that as an example because the last one sucked. But there's certain. My point is, there's certain games that even though you like and you think are amazing, you probably know in the back of your mind, yeah, maybe a lot of people won't get this. But a game like this, anybody, man, will look at this game and say, "Wow, that's interesting. Wow, let me try it out." That's how good it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think we all love Breath of the Wild, and I think it's amazing it's happened, and I think it's only the beginning. I think that's what the best part about Breath of the Wild is for me. Like, most of the time when I beat a Zelda game, I'm very somber, I'm a little sad, I almost want to cry, right? When I beat Breath of the Wild, I wasn't sad. Like, sure, I kind of meandered for a little bit, wondered about things, but not too long after, I jumped right back into the game. I thought I was going to go to sleep. No, I ended up playing like 2 or 3 more hours after I beat the game. And Breath of the Wild is the beginning of something amazing, or many things that are amazing. I don't want to go into detail about everything yet, about what exactly I mean, but okay, actually, I'm gonna say it. I don't think I'm spoiling the story, not really, but I think Breath of the Wild is gonna have a sequel. Maybe it's just related to the DLC story, or maybe it means more than that. I think they have accomplished so much with this engine that it means great things for Zelda fans, because I think they're gonna be able to bring out better, greater Zelda games at a faster rate now with this new engine, which is really exciting. But also, I think they can use that engine for other games that we'll talk about later in the show. So, I think Nintendo has a lot in store, and I'm using this as a transition point. And I think that they've shown their confidence with what they have in the background by announcing that they are doubling their manufacturing shipments for Switch. They went from 8 million for next fiscal year to 16 million. And if they sell the majority of those shipments within the first year, Nintendo Switch will have blown away the Wii U. And it will be approaching GameCube sales, lifetime GameCube sales, within the first year of being out. And I mean, that's basically approaching Wii level. And Nintendo Switch isn't exactly a casualized, focused system. It's kind of catering to a little bit more the core gamer while trying to bring casuals on the side, if that makes any sense. So, what do you guys think about Nintendo announcing doubling their shipments for the next fiscal year, 8 million to 16 million? If you count the 3 million that have come out by the end of this fiscal year at March, approximately 3 million, give or take a little bit, we're looking at almost 20 million units by the end of next March being out there.
Yeah, I think that I'm not too sure if they get all the way to 16 million, but I do think that it'll at least get like 13 or 14 million because, like everyone's been saying, there's just such a high demand for the system. Something that we haven't seen since the Wii, and it's Nintendo's best launching system of all time. Zelda is the best standalone launch game Nintendo's ever had, and I'm actually pretty surprised they actually upped it up that much too. But at the same time, they're pretty sure they have to do that because there's Mario Kart and Splatoon and Mario coming at the end of the year, and who knows what else in the meantime. I mean,
Pokemon, Monster Hunter.
Yeah, exactly. Like, who knows? So.
Oh my gosh.
Smash Brothers too.
Ugh.
Like they're basically coming out with all their titles that sell a lot.
Yeah.
Like everything that is like on the top 10 like all-time Nintendo sales list, they're bringing out an entry in that franchise within the first year of the Switch.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
Nintendo Life made a good point today too. Nintendo has to have some other things in the pipeline in order to do something like this. Because in the past they've never doubled their like they did with the Switch.
right.
So I think that, and Nintendo is super confident right now, which is something we haven't seen in a very, very long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think E3 is going to be, it's going to be big. I can't say make or break because Nintendo's on a really good track. Like they're really doing everything right now. I don't know. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, to me this tells me, because I mean they've been so conservative in the past 2 years, right? With everything. I mean, look at
Wii U sucked.
Yeah, then that's the thing. By them making a move like this, it shows you that they have a different mentality now, and they wouldn't just do it, on chance. They know that they can move these units, and they have people that are analyzing. They have,
Right, but those analysts don't know everything.
Yeah, but man, I don't know. I think that especially in Japan, I think this thing when they start getting games like Monster Hunter, when they start getting games like Pokemon, I can't even imagine. I think it's going to outsell the U.S. in Japan. I think alone.
Especially
I think Japan can
Has the
move half
Switch
of
passed
these units
Xbox
easily.
One already?
Probably.
I saw a chart for sales like the last few weeks, and Switch was on the top, but Xbox One was at the bottom. They sold like 117 Xboxes in Japan like in a month, and 117,000, 117.
Yeah, they really don't like Xbox over there.
I'm just
that's a trend. They've
Right,
never
but-
really sold Microsoft systems over in Japan.
I'm just saying that, like, if you were to give me 117 Xboxes, I feel like I could sell 117 Xboxes in a month by myself. You know, like, that's how bad it is in Japan. It's, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. But I mean,
don't you guys feel like it hasn't really hit Japan yet? Like it's because they've only sold like what 300,000 Switch units.
that's a lot for Japan, though.
That is a lot, but
It
compared
is
to
just
like
an
the
island.
3DS, you know, like and what the 3DS sold, that's.
Well,
But
how
that's
much
what I'm
did the
saying.
3DS sell in its first 2 weeks in Japan?
Well, I don't know, but I'm assuming it's a lot more than that because they love their handhelds over there. So what I'm saying is, once they get,
I gotta
the
look
thing
this
is
up.
that they're not really Zelda's never really sold well over there. So really, what games do they have to look forward to? You know what I'm saying? Like once they get a game like Monster Hunter, once they get a game that is all traditionally known to sell well in Japan, that's when you're going to see the huge rush.
They have
And
the
that's when you're
Dragon
gonna look at
Quest
the numbers
games.
and be like,
Yeah, Dragon Quest and
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
There's
yeah,
Dragon
you have
Quest.
Dragon Quest coming, you have Monster
Oh, they
Hunter
did.
coming,
Yeah, they
Pokemon
did
coming.
have. Yeah.
Okay, so for the record, 3DS sold by, I guess in the first year in Japan, 1.06 million units.
Really?
In the first year.
It's not a whole lot.
That's a lot for Japan, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these numbers could be wrong.
Yeah, what's the population of that place, anyways?
I don't.
It's a lot. It's like 100 and something million, I think.
Yeah, it's not, that's kind of a lot for sales from one place like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm reading now that when the system launched in February 26, 2011, it sold its entire allotment of 400,000 units. So it sold out when
It sold out, yeah.
with its first shipment. So
They love their handhelds, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess that is a little bit more than Switch in Japan, but it's something they can build upon. Switch is sold out anywhere regardless. So, yeah, but I definitely think what they're doing, you know, Pokemon and Monster Hunter are probably coming, and I mean, that's really exciting, right? We're kind of segueing into the next subject here. So, like, those games are going to be huge. Like, one of my biggest issues with 3DS recently is that I just feel like the resolution sucks. Like, playing games in 240p is bad. Like
I was playing Zelda before we started the show, and then like even before that, I was playing Xenoblade earlier in the day on my 3DS just to kind of see like the comparison. And oh my god, it's so I can't even like play that thing anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the games are good, but it's just I feel like the hardware is already really old and aged.
Yeah,
and I'm looking forward to playing Pokemon and Monster Hunter, two games I play a lot of on a 3DS, on an HD screen. I'm really looking forward to playing these games on the most powerful handheld on the market by a long shot. And it's I'm really excited about that. I think there's gonna be some special things ahead. You know, I do wonder if the Switch really is going to take up both the handheld and console markets for Nintendo. Until we see Pokemon, like a mainline Pokemon on the Switch for sure, it's still up in the air, I think. But, I mean, it's likely at this point. But I know the Switch is going to do well, because it's going to get both those markets. To what extent, I'm not sure, but it's going to do well. I don't know what Nintendo has in store after that fact, or what else, but with just the Switch, I think it's going to do really, really well. And I'm excited. I'm excited for Pokemon and Monster Hunter, and Bravely Default, and everything. It's just really exciting.
yeah. I wonder if the Bravely Default series will come back on the Switch, or if it'll even come back at all.
Well, did it sell well?
Yeah, surprisingly. Like, they didn't expect it to sell nearly as well as it did on at least the first one.
Huh.
I don't really know about the second one.
I mean, maybe. I have to look at the numbers, but
I love those games. Like,
I'll look it up real quick.
it's
I would cry if they made a third one. Or even if they just put like the first two in HD.
I guess just
What is it? What are they like? Like, what other game have you played that they're kind of like? I've never.
They're
played
like a Final Fantasy, like a classic Final Fantasy, like spiritual successor thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like really similar to the old ones.
So the second one sold 500,000.
That's not
I
bad.
mean, it's not too bad. It's pretty.
You have to keep taking into consideration they have a lower
Yeah.
budget than main console game, like home console games. So 500,000 goes a longer way with a smaller budget. If that makes any sense.
But
Yeah.
the first one sold $1.5 million. So
Oh damn!
So I
Yeah.
guess it's up in the
Quite a
air.
diff-
I guess they have to decide what
Yeah.
if they can do it or not. I feel like whatever developer makes the game, they're going to do something, but it's
Square Enix makes it.
There's a lot of
what's
portable
up, Black
games,
Star
like
dude? How you doing?
Yeah.
portable IPs that could come over to the Switch, like Professor Layton and Ace Attorney and stuff like that. So there's still a lot of stuff that they can bring over from the 3DS.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
to my point earlier, the 3DS sold 22 million units in Japan, and in the United States it sold 20 million. So they sold more with
lifetime.
a lot less people. Lifetime, of course, lifetime sales. But
yeah,
that's my point.
I understand what you're saying. Right. The
Yeah.
market in Japan is a lot smaller than America, but they love the hell out of that handheld. You're right
Yep.
about that.
And this is the ultimate handheld, so
Yeah, they might get a bunch of Vita owner moving over too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because Vita's pretty big in Japan.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. So the thing is, though, like, I'm glad that they were able to implement sleep mode really well on the Switch, but what about Street Pass? Because I think Street Pass is a big deal over there. When you consider the fact that you have 22 million people in a very small area, relatively, in Japan, like, Street Pass probably was very effective over there,
Yeah, it was.
I sometimes pass by. I don't really use Street Pass at all on my 3DS, to be honest. But like when I experimented in the past, like it worked. It happened on occasion. But because I went to like big conventions, that's really the only time I ever like really used the Street Pass, and it just became annoying because I would have like 50, 100, 200, 300 notifications for Street
Yeah.
Pass, so I just stopped using it whenever I go to a Pokemon tournament. So, but. Yeah, I wonder if this. I'm sure the Switch can have Street Pass. I mean, it has Bluetooth. It should be possible, but I wonder if they'll actually take advantage of that, especially since they're going to be getting all those 3DS players on the Switch probably, especially when Pokemon comes out.
I think they should. I don't know why they don't. I mean, I guess just because it's not a DS successor technically, maybe that's why they're not doing it. But yeah, I like the Street Pass. I used it all the time when I was in school, and me and my friends like had a lot of fun with it. It was always fun, like getting the same person multiple times in a row and like having no idea who it is and like trying to figure out like who was street passing for like a week. Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty cool.
Is that how you met your girlfriend?
No.
It'd be kind of awesome though if you actually meet people that way. But that's something Nintendo will never do because they don't want 10-year-olds to, get abducted.
right.
So
Small no.
yeah. Swap
So-
note.
Has anybody bought I Am Setsuna? Has anybody purchased that game?
I have.
I'm
No.
waiting for Zelda.
No. None of us have yet.
It's kind of
No.
expensive, I think, for a game that's
Yeah.
not new.
Well, I compared it to like a 3DS game. It was like $40, brand new, and it looks like it's like the same kind of content when it comes to like a 3DS game, like Bravely Default or
That's
whatever.
true.
Right.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have any other thoughts about, I guess, what could happen with the extra units that are coming in for the Switch? I mean, we've mentioned that it seems like Nintendo has this confidence, this air of confidence about them. It seems like they have something in the back. Like, they were so confident about Breath of the Wild. Like, they didn't show that much at their presentation, but they did leave at the end of the presentation. They were like, just joking around. It's like, oh, when's Zelda coming out? Oh, I don't know. eventually. And then like where they're literally like our whole. I was like, just like, come on, Nintendo! If you don't announce Zelda at launch, the Switch is going to die, right? Like it's if if Zelda didn't come out for the Switch, I mean, we wouldn't be. It would be over. I think like you can't come out with just a whole bunch of indie games and expect to be successful.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, once they announced and they had that trailer, like they were, and Kimishima's just like, have a good night, you know, like it. He just when they showed that trailer, they kind of destroyed everything. I think they knew just how well this game was going to be received. Like, and it's also probably why they just left just Zelda for E3. Like, they knew how amazing this game was going to be. They're just, and I think now that they, like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, what they accomplished with Zelda with this engine and just all the different things that they gained ground on the industry, they're going to be able to take that forward and use it for other Zeldas, for other games, maybe even a game like Metroid Prime, which has been repeated from many different sources recently, and it's rumored. There's rumors are coming from different places, and a lot of people that I respect are talking about Metroid Prime, maybe or even probably being announced at E3. And if it's something that they're taking advantage of this Breath of the Wild engine and putting that Metroid Prime spin, I don't. What I guess I have no idea where they could. I have ideas. But they could take Metroid Prime in so many different directions, and I'm extremely excited about the possibility of that. I don't know where to start with this, but I'm excited about Metroid Prime.
What if what they're announcing? What if they're announcing is VR?
Well,
what if they do that, man? Can you imagine?
Underground,
that's what all this
doing?
doubling the hardware is for.
VR? So wait, so are you saying that they're going to come with two Switches? Everyone's going to get a Switch, like have two Switches so they can. I'm just talking out my ass, but
I think you probably need one.
VR with Metroid, boom.
Well, it makes sense. So yeah, 2018 they go forward with the VR. So that's interesting actually. So what if they announce their VR support for the Switch at E3 and there's like demos of Metroid Prime using it, and it's going to destroy everyone's perception and it's going to completely overshadow Xbox Scorpio or whatever it's called. And then everyone just going to like they're going to buy the Switches and then they're going to buy their $100 expansions for VR. Or maybe it's not even. Maybe it is only just a headset. Maybe they realize that 720p is still good enough to play VR games on the tablet, and that these headsets are just have like little balancers for your ears, because that's what the big issue is for VR from Nintendo's perspective, is that it makes people dizzy. So if I don't know if you guys know, but my brain has been like what makes us feel and understand our balance is within the constructs of our ears. I don't remember the actual what piece of the ear it is. So basically you would need some sort of headset that would be able to hold a Switch, but also they would need some sort of device that I suspect it would have to do something with the ears to maintain our balance, because that's where I think it's like a fluid that's in there that helps us to understand our balance. So they could conceivably release like a $50 peripheral that combines with the Switch that may make it VR ready. I don't know how good of a VR experience it could be, because the Switch is weaker than the PS4, which can barely do VR as it is, and it's recommended that VR have like at least like a 2K like resolution screen or something, and the Switch is not even 1K. So it's beautiful for what it is. I just don't know if VR is actually possible, but maybe it is. So it's hard to say, but Metroid Prime VR, bring it. Like,
See, I see VR different, and this is coming from someone who actually has a PlayStation VR. I don't think it's at that point to where Nintendo really wants to release something, because like my PSVR is sitting there collecting dust. It's not where I think it needs to be in terms of like consoles. Like I'm hoping that Sony announces something at E3, because it's technically right now a $400 thing that's sitting on my counter.
Yeah, but if
And
anybody could do it, it's Nintendo because
Yeah, I mean-
they're experts in getting the most out of their hardware. You know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
but that sucks that you
I-
purchased this thing and you're not really using it because
well, I don't know if this is a kid-friendly show, but I have checked out PSVR porn, and it is legit.
Oh my god.
But like this right here, okay. I got World of Goo, and I think I got the other game that came out this week.
is that the
And
PSVR porn? Oh, never mind.
No.
It's
these pointers are so spot on compared to like Wii remotes. It's this would be perfect for VR, moving around. So Nintendo's in a position to have very, very cheap VR. I'm not sure when they would take the dive.
2018 with Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I think it's possible. It's just like I mentioned. Yeah, it is technically capable of being the most affordable VR experience because you have the tablet that can, go on your head like here with a cheap headset, and it's like that. And then you have these motion controllers that basically are almost as good as Oculus Rift or whatever. But it's the resolution for the screen isn't really as good as other headsets, even though it's great for what it is. And you need power to really run VR. And the battery, I would imagine, could only last so long. So it's just...
Yeah, that's very true.
I feel like
yeah.
the next Switch, the Switch 2, will have enough power and resolution to really be a good VR system, So I just feel like we could be 4 or 5 years away from mainstream VR, because right now VR is more like you need like $1,000 to really enjoy a good VR experience, and the Switch is $300. Like it's a stretch.
I think it could be a good cheap way to play VR, like how the Wii was a good cheap way to play video games, but it wasn't like as good as
What's up, Buck AG?
the other consoles. I guess I think that's what it would be for the Switch and the VR if they ever were to do it.
Yeah, that would make sense.
The cheap alternative that like a lot of people would buy just because it's so much cheaper than the other ones that are like $800 or whatever, $500.
Yeah.
But are we going to talk about the fact that the GPU came out and it in fact is a Tegra X1 chip?
We can talk about it. My thoughts are on it. Well, look, when the first stripped down Switch were coming out a week or two ago, and I watch a Spawn Wave. I think he's really good. He gives a good perspective on the technology. He's actually pretty optimistic about this announcement. Not announcement, revelation, whatever you want to call it. But initially I was thinking, the Switch might be right behind Xbox One. And even with this, it's still not that far behind. But I was thinking, you know what? I don't think it matters. Because ultimately, they're already in that range where it wasn't possible with the Wii U because the Wii U's architecture was so weird and different compared to the competition. And the same thing with the Wii and even the GameCube, right? But now they have something that runs Unreal and a whole bunch of other engines so easily, more easily than any other system. And actually, Factor 5 has come back. I don't know if you guys know who Factor 5 is, but they are behind Rogue Squadron 2, arguably the best-looking GameCube game aside from maybe Resident Evil 4 and Twilight Princess and Wind Waker and Metroid Prime. They're up there. But anyways, they're basically known for always pushing Nintendo hardware to the limits in terms of technology. And they are... They're very what they said about the Switch is basically that it's somewhere between Wii U and Xbox One, which we all knew that. But they think it's they think it's really easy to develop for. Like really easy to develop for. So yeah, I'm not worried. I think as long as the Switch sells well, it could be like a PS2 in terms of games. Like it's not going to look as good as the other systems, but it's going to have all the games. So and Zelda looks amazing, and that's developed for Wii U, not even the Switch. So I'm not worried.
A lot of this stuff is going to look great in handheld mode too.
Mm-hmm.
which is a big factor because if you want to take your game on the go, you can't do that on an Xbox One or a PlayStation 4.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Andy. What were you going to say?
Oh no, it's good, but yeah, people talk about the Tegra X1 like it's a curse word, but this thing is it's a beast, man. This little chip is a beast. It can do 4K. It's 4K capable at 60 FPS. You know, and it was back just a year ago, or maybe a couple years, 2015. It was the strongest. Or is still the strongest mobile chip. I don't know if it still is, or it's one of the strongest. But it's up there with when they said industry leading chips, they weren't kidding around. I mean, it's super strong. I mean, it's enough to run any Unreal 4 engine game. You know, so it's not going to be an issue. You know, this thing is like, I think people are underestimating how powerful it is. Not only that, but it's in the hands of a software developer like Nintendo, which you've seen what they can do with little. You know, with the little bit of hardware, they can get the most out of it, and sometimes bring out things that no other developer can do.
Right.
So I'm not worried about it. I'm excited that it's at least. What I was thinking is this: if it's a Tegra X1, I just hope it's not like a cut back version of the X1, like they had to take some stuff out. No, it's not. It's the actual chip, so it's good.
Yeah, they actually apparently listened to Capcom, and Capcom wanted more RAM on the system. So this isn't like a straight. It is really close to the X1, but it has a little bit more RAM and has the ability to have variable clock speeds. That's important for the switching mechanic from going from home console mode to portable mode. And that extra RAM, that extra gigabyte of RAM, that's literally, you know, like a 33% more RAM, is going to go a long way. And it's I'm not like I said, I'm not worried. I think ultimately it comes down to sales, and if the system's selling, it will do well. Like Nintendo, I think invested a lot in the APIs, which basically are the mechanics and systems that make it easier for developers to put games on the system. From what I'm seeing, from what I'm hearing, from the speculation from people who know what they're talking about in terms of technology, that's what it looks like for the Switch. Like I said, Factor 5 is saying that this system is easier to develop for than the PS4. And that goes a long way. Like, even though it's weaker than the Xbox One, because it's so easy to develop for, and because we're in an era where everything's developed for PC, which means all the details are very scalable. Like, I don't know if you play PC games, but you can run them from low details to medium details to high to very high. So it means that most third-party games are going to be on low details. Whatever. But, I mean, I think games are going to look good regardless, and we're going to get the games if there's enough support. I mean, enough sales. But I want to go back to
yeah.
Metroid Prime.
I don't know if one of you guys. Well, real quick, I don't know if one of you guys posted it on Twitter, but someone posted it was a developer who was. They said that they were trying over and over again to get a certain game on the Wii U unsuccessfully. Like they I don't know if they were at it for weeks or months or whatnot, but they said they would tried and tried. They said they got it running on the Switch in 3 days. That's just the difference between the Wii U and the Switch.
Yeah. It's just so easy to develop for, so I'm not worried about that.
Yeah, it's up to the developers. It's Nintendo. I think Nintendo's done as much as they could. Now it's up to the developers whether they want to, you know, put their games on the Switch. I think it all comes down to the sales. So I think you're going to see a lot of people who missed the boat who's going to be jumping back on the boat probably by the end of the year.
Yeah, I think once Mario is out, people are gonna just jump on, especially if Pokemon's out by that point, and especially if Metroid Prime is announced. I want to go back to Metroid Prime. I feel like we should end our podcast on Metroid Prime. What do you think? Well, one, do you guys actually think it's coming? Do you think it's coming, or do you think we're gonna see it at E3?
I think it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's not forget about what Reggie said like a couple months ago, where he said that when someone asked him in an interview about Metroid and Earthbound or Monolith 3,
yeah,
he said he specifically turned the conversation onto Metroid, and he said, "Talk to me in a year from now and see like what has changed." So I'm pretty sure that's like a pretty huge, obvious hint that Metroid exists and it will more than definitely likely appear at E3.
Yeah, I'm in an entire agreement with that. I hope but at the same time, like, even if it is coming, maybe it won't be ready for E3. You know, like, we don't know how long this has been in development for. We don't know who's really developing it. It could be Retro Studios. After all, they were teasing with all those prime ribbed and steak tweets, which are very vague. And if I go back to all the different food rumors, like, remember when Wada, rest in peace, but like, he was holding those bananas, people were like, oh, what's that mean? What does that mean? Like, and then there was like oranges or apples or something after that, like a few months later. Like, I stay away from that when it comes to rumors for games. So, but let's just assume Metroid is coming, right? Which hopefully it is. A lot of rumors are suggesting so. It's been enough time. What do you think? What should we expect from it? Like, what format is it going to be in? And let's just assume this is Metroid Prime, okay, or something in the vein of Metroid Prime. So like a first third-person sort of game. I would like to see something where it's a bit faster than Metroid Prime. So they go into more third-person elements where you're more acrobatic, but I still want that first-person element as well. So maybe they find a way to switch between third-person and first-person very quickly and dynamically. And I think they could create a really interesting, like, sort of hybrid game like that. Like, imagine, like, Mirror's Edge plus Metroid Prime. So it could be really, really cool.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely think that the game should be like a little bit more faster, because fun fact, the very first video I ever did on YouTube was talking about what I think Nintendo should do with the next Metroid game.
Oh.
And yeah, it's pretty cringy and bad, but yeah, I talked about how Nintendo is with Zelda, how they pretty much changed like all the conventions and for the better. Like, they didn't get rid of things that worked; they got rid of things that didn't work, and they added new things. And I think that's what they should do with Metroid, because I definitely think that Metroid could use some modernizing, because, like I was saying earlier before we were live, I think that the games hasn't really aged that well because, like, the controls, but then there's the Wii version. But I also don't think it's aged well because of, like, the pacing and how those games are just so linear. Like, you go through, like, this one corridor pretty much, like, throughout the whole level, and then you fight the boss, and then you go on to, like, the next area. So I think that they should totally keep the whole, like, labyrinth kind of thing that Metroid is known for, but they should add some more elements, like having more, like, action oriented scenes, and but still keep, like, the atmosphere that makes Metroid, like, one of my favorite games ever. Like, the atmosphere of those games, like being isolated and on this alien planet like you know nothing about, which is pretty similar to what they did with Zelda. I mean, you're just thrown into this world you know nothing about, and you just go. So I think they should totally take some cues from what worked with Zelda and put it in Metroid.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a tough balance, because you do want, like, those. I do kind of want those very, like, claustrophobic feelings within corridors and being a lot of dark areas, so you can be scary. It can be scary. You can be, like, spooked, and also at the same time feel that isolation. So it's not always like being in a closed space. It can be large spaces as well. Like I don't know. Like, for example, whenever you go into Chozo Ruins, you see everything around you is just, like, destroyed and dead, and you're just like, wow. And it wouldn't be as feasible if it was so tight, if that makes any sense. So, I mean, I trust Nintendo to find a way to cleverly design all of this. But there do seem changes need to be made, because even though Metroid Prime, in my opinion, is one of the top 5 greatest games of all time, like, it's that good.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't mainstream, and as a result, it didn't sell nearly as well as it should have. So they do need to do some things, and one way, and what's something that's been talked about for years, is to have an online multiplayer mode. Now,
I agree.
The problem with that is that that takes resources and effort and money. So what they were able to accomplish with Breath of the Wild, they need to have as much resources going into Metroid Prime. Like, they need to be able to create that amazing single-player experience that destroys everything, but at the same time, they need to have that online multiplayer mode that attracts the masses. That way the game can sell well. And they can find a way to balance like what you accomplish in the single-player mode to kind of open up more possibilities in multiplayer mode. That way it'll encourage more people who aren't normally good enough. That's what I'm going to say, good enough to beat Metroid Prime, because Metroid Prime is hard. It took me years to beat Metroid Prime because I was a kid and it was just hard. Like, that could be the right formula for it. Those are just my thoughts on it. I think they need to find a way to keep it Metroid Prime or Metroid without, selling out, but it needs to also sell more, and be more mainstream at the same time. It's kind of a hard balance, but, I mean, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I mean, about the multiplayer thing, I don't know. I think of like Federation Force and how poorly that did, and really the biggest sell that they tried to sell you with. And I understand, there's a lot of things wrong with Federation Force, but the biggest selling point to them was you can play with other people, the multiplayer. But I mean, if it was well done, that's fine. But I would much rather have if Legend of Zelda, if Breath of the Wild was the Skyrim for Nintendo, I want Metroid Prime to be the Mass Effect of Nintendo, in the sense of like in the sense of the scope. It's obviously a different kind of game, but I want to go deep into the lore, the Chozo. Like I want to see like heavy sci-fi in this game. Like exploring like different ruins on different planets. I mean, that would be amazing. That's what I would like to see more on this game. Like if they put more stuff like that, they wouldn't even need the multiplayer, dude. That alone will sell the game. But they just need to think bigger.
Right.
Think bigger.
I mean, you raise a point. Like, I personally don't need the multiplayer myself. I just think it could be a way to bring in more people. But I mean, if they can, one of the things that bothered me is that when Metroid Prime 3 came out, I thought it was such a great game. But BioShock also came out at that time, and it sold better than Metroid Prime 3. And as great as BioShock is, as a Metroid Prime fan, I felt a little jealous. And but they're very similar games. They're both first-person adventure games. Like, it's not a very overdone genre. But BioShock was able to sell well. So it can be done. You can have that kind of genre of a game and have it sell well. Like, maybe they can bring in that BioShock audience. That would be great. Heck, maybe the BioShock team is making Metroid Prime. Who knows? According to Obi-Wan, it's an unexpected developer. That would be unexpected, but they are the developer that does have the pedigree to do it. So
I wouldn't put too much thought on that.
Yeah. Would you guys want like an open world Metroid or like a somewhat open world Metroid?
I would.
Somewhat.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
I don't think it should be like gigantic, like it should not be like a No Man's Sky ripoff.
No.
Mm-mm.
I mean, when I was a kid, I wanted to travel to other planets, and then when they did it in Metroid Prime 3, I thought it was cool, but like it wasn't as good as Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. Part of the problem with that is that when I look at what they were able to do with the Metroid Prime trilogy, a lot of the decisions they made were based off what they could accomplish. Because the Retro Studios team was never a big team. It was never very large. So, accomplishing what was accomplished for Breath of the Wild, that is the largest, most high-budget Nintendo title of all time. So, it's hard to, I don't know if they'll be able to accomplish all these different things. It depends how big the team is, really, and how much money is going into it.
Yeah. But I mean, they can always use, assets from Breath of the Wild, like as far as like physics and,
they may use a physics engine.
Yeah.
They may.
I think every Nintendo game should just use that engine.
Yes.
Like, why not? It's like it's so realistic.
Right. I mean,
just add this
for some people who may be
game.
watching, that doesn't mean the games are going to feel and look like Zelda. It's kind of like the underworking like laws and rules of the game. That's where they can build upon it and change it a little bit. So it's not going to look or feel like Breath of the Wild. It's going to be something else. But what they were to accomplish with that engine helps to build something really advanced and with a lot of different elements going into it, if that makes any sense. So
It's kind of like a company using Unity. You can do
Right.
different things with the engine.
Yeah.
Right. Or Unreal Engine. Like, there are games that look
Mhm.
completely different and function completely differently, but using the engine facilitates development and it speeds things up and it allows someone to accomplish a lot more. So, yeah, I mean, maybe they are going to do that. Who knows?
What is it true? I don't know if this is true or not, but didn't Ocarina of Time use the Mario 64 engine?
I don't know.
Vaguely remember something like that, actually.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, like there's like
Remember
a
something that.
there's like a gravestone that says like something that people have been trying to like figure out for years, and it says like something about Luigi on it because they're using like the Mario 64 engine, and it's like a leftover asset from Mario 64.
Does that
It's
mean
like
Luigi's dead in Mario 64?
yeah, that's like why like no, it wasn't a gravestone. It was a thing in the fountain. With
Oh, I kind of, I sort of remember what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
and that, you can find that in Ocarina of Time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Elder Sean, don't you remember anything like this?
I'm not sure. I can't remember what happened 2 weeks ago, man.
Well, according to development, it was developed concurrently with Mario 64.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it was the same engine, though.
They definitely, there's a lot of things that were shared between both development teams, and they may have used a lot of different resources. I mean, there are even resources from Star Fox 64 in Ocarina of Time. So,
Yeah, the R-Wing. I've seen that.
right. And, I mean, there's a lot of Easter eggs for Mario within Ocarina of Time. Like, in Hyrule Castle, if you look in Zelda's Garden, you can see different pictures and paintings from Mario 64, actually. So, there's a lot of references.
It's interesting. It's like, they came out with Super Mario 64 first and used things about that game to make Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and this is opposite. Or Breath of the Wild comes out first, and maybe they'll be using the similar things for Odyssey.
See,
Maybe.
here's the thing, though. If the game is being developed by a Western developer like Retro Studios, they won't be able to share as much assets. Because the thing is, Mario and Zelda are both developed by EAD teams, and all the EAD teams are relatively close to each other. They're all in Japan, I think, for the most part. So that's a lot more can be shared, and assets can be shared, and there can be a lot more communication. When you're separated by the expanse of an entire planet, it's harder to do that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, granted, globalization has occurred, and it's a lot easier to communicate and transfer ideas now as opposed to the 90s or even the early 2000s when Metroid Prime was developed. But I'm just saying that, Mario and Zelda will share more assets than Metroid Prime, assuming Metroid Prime is being developed by Retro Studios or another Western developer. Maybe there's something going. It's all happening in Japan, or maybe I don't know. Like it depends. Nintendo has done a lot of different things with changing around their development teams and such, so we don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm excited for Metroid Prime, and if we're gonna get an announcement for Metroid Prime and Pokemon and Smash Bros. And Monster Hunter on top of Mario Odyssey, Splatoon 2, Xenoblade 2, and ARMS and Mario Kart and Breath of the Wild with the DLC, like that is, how do you not succeed?
Yeah.
It's just.
That'd be amazing if it doesn't.
You take out a few of those games, and they're still given to be really successful. So
Yeah.
Which is why some of those games we may not see until later down the line, even if they are ready, because they're pacing things. Like, actually, we've heard that Mario Odyssey has been almost done for a while already. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
I saw it too.
They may be polishing and making sure it's really good by the time it comes out. But,
And that's great.
we're not getting it till the holiday season. Even though if they needed to, they could have had it come sooner. But that just means the game's going to be better. Like, because Nintendo doesn't really,
But
they make sure everything's
yeah,
as good as
but
it
all
can be.
that also means that they can strategically place it exactly where they want it as far as when it debuts for sales. You know what I'm saying? Like a game that comes out like right around or right before or right around Thanksgiving or right before Thanksgiving, that game is going to do a lot better than a game in the middle of July.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I mean, there's tons of games coming. Even
I think
no, you
I was
go.
gonna say I think Metroid it would do really well if they market it the same way they've been doing Zelda, and if they do some things to like make it appeal to the masses, like you were saying, Andres. Like, I think a multiplayer would be cool. Like, if they keep it like the arena kind of genre, like in Hunters, and even the Metroid Prime 2, like local multiplayer mode, like just like the like arcadey
Yeah,
arena
I
kind
mean,
of
I think if
multiplayer.
they
I think
go
that'd be
for an
awesome.
online multiplayer, it should be more like Unreal Tournament as opposed to Call of Duty.
Yeah, that would be
Definitely.
cool.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
didn't
There's not
even
enough of
I
those
didn't
games.
even I didn't even know that there was online multiplayer for any of the Metroids besides the last
there
one.
wasn't. I mean, there's Hunters on the 3D on the Nintendo DS.
Yeah.
So what were
That
you
was
talking
fun. I
about?
played
Metroid
that a
Prime
lot.
2?
Yeah, that was a really good game.
Metroid Prime 2 had local multiplayer, and then the
Oh.
Nintendo DS it came out. The Hunters game was like it kind of had a pretty lackluster and basic single player. Keep in mind, Hunters was not developed by Retro Studios; it was developed by some other hoo-haws, and their multiplayer was actually really good. And for a DS game, which basically had Nintendo 64 graphics, was like a little bit like it can like write textures better or whatever. Like it was pretty damn good for what it was for being on
Yeah.
a system like that. It was pretty
Mhm.
impressive what they were able to accomplish with that. But yeah, that's the only online multiplayer.
Okay.
Well, and then there's
If
Federation
see
Force.
that's different. If you guys are saying that you played those and they were decent and they were fun, that's
Yeah.
different from
Hunters
me playing
was good.
Federation Force, which was garbage.
No, Hunters
Yeah,
was
that's
good.
just co-op
Yeah.
too.
But the thing is, Hunters had a good multiplayer, bad single player. So although I feel like Echoes was probably really close to that game that they needed. Like if Echoes had a slightly more expanded multiplayer that was online and a little bit easier single player mode, it would have been. I mean, it was already really good, but we could have been talking about this game as the best in the series instead of second or third best, if that makes any sense. Like they were close to really hitting that formula of having a really good multiplayer and single player. I mean, a lot of people argue that multiplayer Echoes was kind of bad. I'm just saying that I enjoyed it. I just think with some optimizations, it could have been, they weren't that far away from, accomplishing an amazing single player and multiplayer in one game. So it's possible. It's just, it doesn't seem likely. But when you look at what Nintendo accomplished with Breath of the Wild and where they came from with Skyward Sword, whatever they change with their development cycles and teams, like they're ready. I think if they wanted to, they could make Metroid Prime that good, but will they? Will they make that investment or just put more of that time and effort into the next Mario or Zelda game? Because Metroid doesn't make them as much money. Which is the same reason we haven't seen another F-Zero. Because F-Zero GX is arguably one of the best racing games ever made, but there has not been a follow-up to it. Why? Because it didn't sell well.
I also think the everyone on the internet pretty much has been begging for a proper Metroid game forever, and like kind of spreading this news around that Federation Force was terrible and people wanted something different. Like the negative response to Federation Force could actually help the new Metroid, and it's like people being aware that people
I
want
think
like
that's actually
these
a
games
really
are
interesting
really good.
point because the difference now is that social media is so huge. So back in the day, Metroid Prime didn't have that advantage of social media, but social media now could help to give whatever the next Metroid game is that chance to be really successful. So I mean, and even with the hate that came from Federation Force, it's still publicity. So negative publicity can still be good publicity, right? So it's it is a different time, and even through social media, which basically is just word of mouth on steroids, which is Nintendo's favorite form of advertisement because it's free. It's maybe if it is just a good single player game because of social media, it may succeed. But does Nintendo think that? Does Nintendo believe that they can make it successful? Because it's not what I think. It's not what we think. It's not what we want. It's if they think it's a worthy investment. So.
Yeah, I think if they follow the same route they did with Breath of the Wild in terms of like how they advertise the game. Like, imagine all the reactions on YouTube people would have about like an actual Metroid game that actually looks good, and like, because I'm like all the reactions like to the Nintendo Switch even those were like everywhere, and just because it was actually like a good system and Nintendo did it right. And I feel like if they did that with Metroid, just like they did with the actual Switch and Breath of the Wild, then they would get a lot of publicity on YouTube from like all the YouTubers doing reactions and talking about it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Breath of the Wild is getting a lot of publicity. Like I've noticed, because I don't know how or why, but I get a lot of notifications from YouTube Gaming on Twitter, and they're putting a lot of stuff for Breath of the Wild, which normally they don't. They don't put any Nintendo stuff on YouTube Gaming, but they've been doing a lot of stuff for Breath of the Wild. Like that just goes to show that Breath of the Wild is going beyond like just the Nintendo fans here. Like everyone's paying attention to that game. And multiple people have actually asked me about Breath of the Wild that normally don't ask me about games. They're like, "Hey, is it really that good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is."
Dude, I've had this guy. One of my neighbors. He doesn't even own any of the new systems. He owns Xbox 360. He loves RPGs, right? He loves like any RPG that's on the 360. He's played it. He asked me about Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, and he didn't even know what a Wii U was.
Oh,
Much less a Switch.
good for him.
He didn't even know what a Wii U was, man. And this is a guy that's a hardcore gamer. Like plays all the time, plays every RPG there is.
Well, how hardcore can it be if he still only has a 360?
Well, I mean, hardcore in the sense that
I
plays a
understand
lot.
your point.
Yeah.
He's a gamer, right? Maybe he's not willing to invest in the most recent systems, but he does game a lot, right? But he knows he's heard about Zelda.
And I feel like there's a lot of people out there, man, that just skipped like the last, and we all know this, skipped the last 4 years of Nintendo, and it's like you're just like if Nintendo was just absent for the last 4 years, they're just figuring it out now, you know, and it's because
there's people that have skipped the GameCube, that have skipped the Wii. There are people that even skip the N64, and it's not even necessarily a negative agenda against Nintendo. But with social media now, Nintendo is really on the ball with their social media advertisements now. Like, they are on the ball with that. They all have all these different events, like the escape rooms, the different, like, you know, the Nintendo Switches on the go, like those events with John Cena. Like, these different things they're doing, like that YouTube series they just launched of the making of Breath of the Wild. Like, they have all these different little things that they're doing, like every few weeks or once a month, that are continually spreading that awareness, that facilitating that word of mouth through social media. They're doing it right. Like, I think Nintendo now understands how to thrive in this age with social media and mobile gaming. Like, they seem to be so modern in their strategy now, and I think that's why they're going to be so successful, because they weren't modern with their strategy with Wii U. With the Wii, in some ways they were, but not entirely. With the GameCube, they missed a boat with a lot of different things. N64, they missed a boat with the CDs. So now it seems like they get it. They are fully caught up, and they may reap the benefits. Breath of the Wild is the first and primary example of. Actually, Pokemon Sun and Moon, I think, is the first example of how good Nintendo games are going to be, even though technically it was developed by Game Freak, a second-party developer. It's just, things are changing with Nintendo, and Pokemon Sun and Moon and Breath of the Wild are just the beginning of what can be a new golden age for Nintendo. The Platinum Age, White Gold. Yeah.
Yeah, Nintendo's been very adult about how they've handled their advertisement the last couple of months, and it's pretty cool to see, because over the last 6 or 7 years, everything has been geared towards families and kids. Not that I'm knocking family and kids, but their approach to advertisement is so much different now, and it's pretty impressive the way they've been handling their advertisement, putting stuff in subways. You didn't see that with Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
Saw nothing ever.
I didn't see John Cena play a Wii U.
Yeah, I mean, who wants to play with a Wii U rather than the Switch? Like, the naming in of itself is just way better. Like, I know what they were going for with the Wii and the Wii U was just kind of like they're trying to get like Google. It's a weird name, but they wanted it to become a household name because it's so different. But the Switch is way cooler. The Switch, it's cooler. It just is. There's no sexual innuendos of that. It's just the Switch. Well, okay, actually, do you want to put your Switch in my dock, or? But forget it. You can always make sexual innuendos, but it's not blatantly talking about what's in your
Wii.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I guess,
Is he
guys, if you
asking
have
NBA 2K
Awkward
or
pause.
his dang
right,
2K18
yeah.
for
What's up, Master
Switch?
Low Roll? Are you talking about?
Yeah, that's what he
Are you
meant.
talking about like 2K18 for like with John Cena wrestling or something?
No, I think the basketball game. I guess that's what he's talking about.
Well, we were talking about John Cena, so I'm confused. But yeah, the basketball game is coming. I don't know if there's any wrestling games to be announced, but I expect after E3 we'll get something.
Yeah, when's the last time we've seen a basketball game on a Nintendo system?
When
With
the
the
Wii,
exception of
when the
Mario
when the Wii U
characters.
launched, when the Wii U launched, there was a basketball game. It was just
Was there?
There
one.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was it? What was it?
It
Was
was
it a 2K game?
it was like 2K20. It was like 2K12 or something.
Really? Huh? I had no
Yeah.
There
idea.
was a Madden game too. I think it sold like 5 copies.
Yeah. Hopefully the sports games actually sell well on the Switch.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's hard to say, but
Yeah. Hopefully.
yeah. So is there any other questions that anyone has that we can answer before we end this thing?
Yeah, we have to wait for that stream delay.
What do you I got a question for you guys. Touching on Metroid one last time, what do you guys personally think you're going to see in terms of Metroid? Are we going to see it at E3? Are we not? Is it going to be developed by a certain company? What do you guys think?
Yeah, it's gonna be at E3, but as far as who's gonna make it, I couldn't tell you.
I'm sorry, I missed the question.
What?
I don't really know studios that well, so I mean,
Wait, you're asking me who you think is developing Metroid?
if
What is
it's
your
E3?
Yeah, what is your personal opinion on E3, Metroid? Are we going to see it? Are we not going to see it? And who do you personally think is going to be developing the game?
Oh man, that's such a hard call because, I've heard that it's supposed to be an unexpected developer, but what does unexpected really mean? Because Retro Studios would technically be unexpected because they've told us they're not working on it, So, but
I wouldn't take what he says like back though.
it's
You doubting the Jedi Master Obi-Wan?
no. I mean, I don't think he's a liar. I just think he does a lot of clickbait titles.
You mean the Gungan?
Metroid. I want Metroid to be announced at E3. I think it's being developed. I don't know if we'll see it at E3. I don't know if I would put my money on it. But as to who's developing it, I think they're gonna take a lot of things from Breath of the Wild in terms of gameplay. I don't know exactly what it's gonna mean, but we're gonna see a really interesting looking new Metroid Prime game. It's not gonna be like a continuation of Metroid Prime 3. There's gonna be some evolution with the gameplay. But as terms of who's making it, it's hard to say. At one point, I suggested it could be Bethesda because of their new relationship with Nintendo and some of the things they could offer. But at the same time, I don't know if they have the time or resources for that, and I don't know if they would want to go all in for that. I like the ideas of the BioShock guys maybe making it, but I know they've gone through some changes, and they also probably wouldn't want to go all in on just a Nintendo system. Platinum Games, I could see them maybe doing that. But at the same time, most of their games don't really go towards the typical Metroid Prime formula, although they could bring forward that fast-paced nature that I think the series needs. So that's something to consider. Retro Studios, I mean, you have to bring them up whenever you talk about Metroid, right? But the problem with them is that I still think they're an amazing developer, but they're not the same developers that developed Metroid Prime. They're completely different now, so the kind of Metroid game they would make would be very different. And on top of that, to bring out the kind of Metroid game I want, I think they're going to need more resources. Like, they can't just do it with a 50-man team anymore. Like, they need a lot more. They need a lot more manpower, a lot more money to really bring forward the Metroid Prime that we want. So, it'll receive a lot of flack otherwise if they don't get a big team behind it. So maybe Retro Studios is collaborating with another team. I could see that. I could see a collaboration happening. Maybe, Miyamoto and some other executives from Nintendo are going down to the West to visit and offer some advice.
throughout development, and Retro Studios is developing with another Western team, I think that's more realistic. That we're having a collaboration going on here. So maybe Retro with the higher ups in Nintendo and another developer like Platinum Games. That may seem like kind of like a far fetched, but I think that we're looking at a collaboration here.
I mean, yeah, I think it will be announced at E3, and I think you guys are going to have to find a fourth person to do this podcast because I'll probably die of a heart attack if I see that.
It'd be really cool
live.
If you could talk to us at some point during the E3 event. That would
I
be
will.
Yeah,
I'll
definitely.
Skype you guys. Yeah, but it has to me. Retro, it only makes sense. I mean, why mess with it? Why mess with it? Bethesda, or I always get that name wrong. Bethesda would be awesome too. I mean, they would be great. So I would hope one of those. I can't think of anyone else.
Yeah, I got to go with Andy. I think it's going to be announced. I think it's going to be Retro Studios.
What if it was made by Nintendo's internal teams, like their
EAD
actual
team?
Yeah.
The problem with that is that we have Mario Odyssey being developed. We have a Pikmin game that supposedly is also pretty much done. Breath of the Wild just came out. Those are three major games that have been developed by EAD. So I think there are 4 EAD teams. I don't know. I haven't really been keeping account of who's working on what. I'm just saying that it's I would like to see what EAD could do with a Metroid game. Don't get me wrong, because EAD basically is the greatest. Like, the 4 EADs are the best developers in the world. So I don't know. I would like to see that. I want to know what they could do with Metroid, but I don't know. Or maybe it's a collaboration with EAD and Retro Studios, 2 in-house Nintendo developers.
Could be.
So the problem with that is that one's on one side of the world, the other's on the other. What if one's developing the single player of the game while the other's developing the multiplayer of the game?
There you go. If you're onto something.
I have a confession to make.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Does it have anything to do
Someone's
with just
asking
dance?
about. No. Someone's asking about analog controls. I honestly don't know the difference either. So if someone can explain it.
Either, honestly.
Okay, so actually, analog controls are triggers that you can kind of press with sensitivity. So for example, the GameCube, if you were to press lightly on the analog triggers when you're playing Melee, you could see like that light bubble. But if you were to press all the way, it would be like a hard, dense bubble. But since the GameCube, Nintendo system controllers haven't had analog triggers, so there's just one click, and that's it. There's no sensitivity to them. It's just one click. There's no other variable presses to it. Did I explain that correctly?
Okay. All right. All right. So it's like Sean said. That could easily be remedied with a GameCube controller.
No, these are digital.
Joy-Con.
No, Joy-Cons. They could release
Yeah.
Joy-Cons that can switch on the side. That can
Right,
be
but
analog.
then it's a peripheral, so it's an additional thing, and I feel like if you should be able to play a game from what you get in the box.
That's true. Yeah.
However,
You could play it though.
However, you can click these sticks, which is something the GameCube didn't have. So perhaps in order to get the full click simulation, you just press down the sticks as you're holding the triggers to get that full-on click. There are ways to develop around it. The problem is that with Virtual Console, like, there's very little development actually put into that. So to change around the controls is kind of a lot to ask for making a whole bunch of Virtual Console games. Maybe they'll do it. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, normally with Virtual Console games, they change very little. Like, almost nothing at all. So.
Or they could do the USB GameCube adapter thing again. And they could resell the GameCube controllers again.
I said,
that's possible, but my point is simply that you should be able to play the game out of the box. You shouldn't have to buy anything extra to play it.
But I mean, you could still play it. You just wouldn't have like that option where the shield. I mean, what other game uses the analog control for
Melee, Super Mario Sunshine.
What does Melee do with it?
It's what I explained with the shields, light shield versus heavy shield.
Yeah, but you gotta
I've never even
remember.
used that.
you're thinking in terms of a gamer. Nintendo's thinking in terms of selling products, so they would be more than happy to bring extra peripherals out to make more
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, it's not like you can't. It's not like those titles are unplayable with the one option. You know, like I don't know. I think that they should just release these games. They should just release Melee, Sunshine. You know, all of these GameCube games. Just release them. Who cares? $15-$20.
Didn't the
And
I
analog
want them
controls?
to.
Didn't the analog controls basically control how your water came out in Mario Sunshine?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, there was varying degrees of how hard you would be shooting out water, and if you hold it all the way, you would stand firm. If you held it lightly, you could run as you shot. So it's kind of changes a lot if you can't do that. It's not easy. Like I said, you can you can develop around it because there's enough controls and stuff on the controllers to do that. The problem is putting in that extra development time to actually change aspects of the game to function with the controller.
That's the thing. If they're gonna do that, they might as well just make it HD. You know, like Super
Right,
Mario
so
Sunshine
then
HD.
it's not going to be a virtual. It's not going to be a virtual console. It's
Right,
going to be an
right.
HD.
Yeah.
So
I see what you're saying now, the difficulty, but I mean, maybe they could just pick and choose. You know, just certain games. You know,
Well,
for
yeah,
the
I mean-
GameCube, certain games for the.
But how do you not bring in Sunshine? When
Yeah.
you bring in virtual console games. You know what I mean? Like Sunshine. And that's something that people have been begging for a really long time for Sunshine.
Yeah.
Some sort of re-release, even if it's through virtual console or a remake. Like,
Wait, so Odyssey's coming out in December.
yes.
If they don't release Sunshine
November.
within like the next 3 months, 3-4 months, I don't see them releasing it. Because why release Super Mario Sunshine to take away any of the any of the attention that the next Mario title is going to have?
Yeah. I don't see it happening, unfortunately. Not anytime soon.
There's a lot of good games on the GameCube, though. It's not just, there's a lot of great games on there.
Well, I mean, if you're just releasing through Virtual Console, I mean, Sunshine can come out at any point. But in terms of having like a remake like Twilight Princess HD or Wind Waker HD, it's got to happen really soon, and it's not going to happen really soon. So unless it comes through Virtual Console in some way, we're not going to be looking at a re-release for Sunshine for at least another year, at least. So,
Yeah, see.
I hate to be negative, but I'm just, I'm being honest with you guys. I don't see.
Yeah, I
Sunshine.
see what you mean.
I don't see
Yeah.
Sunshine or most GameCube games coming out anytime soon. Maybe at E3 they'll announce some sort of GameCube virtual console. After all, it's just kind of like a soft launch, and GameCube virtual console was rumored. And maybe they figured out a workaround for all GameCube games where they simply just assume that once you press into the sticks, that's a full-on press with the shoulder buttons. Maybe that's what it is, and maybe it'll just work that way for every single GameCube game. It's possible.
That's a good fix.
If
cheap,
they just
cheap and fast.
so.
I'm actually curious to see if they do it, how they do it, because I can't imagine playing Super Mario Sunshine without the analog controls.
Like they would have to simulate it in some way, and I think they can do it with the sticks. But it's just a question of will they develop that, or will they find a better way, or will they not even find a way? I don't know. It's hard to say.
Could they just do a firmware update on the Switch so you can plug in the USB
Yes,
GameCube controller?
they can do that. The question is, will that be enough? Because I've been making the argument that they won't, because if you can't play the game out of the box with what you have, why would you release the game for only those people that can play it who buy the GameCube peripheral?
No, of course, yeah.
That's my argument, that if not everyone can play it in some capacity, why do it? It doesn't seem to make business sense to me. Maybe I'm missing something here, but I don't think they would do that. They may allow that functionality, but only if they already have a workaround for it with the normal controllers. So.
Yeah. Master of the Rules asking, why have a touchscreen and have the dock, and you can't play touchscreen games on the TV? So there's no. He's asking, I guess, why is there no touchscreen games? There's one touchscreen game.
There is actually a touchscreen exclusive game.
Yeah,
There
it's
is.
you can't play on the TV though. you know.
No.
But there is a touchscreen game. I played it. It's awesome. It's like a kind of like a music game, like a DDR kind of.
And actually, another thing to point out is that the Joy-Cons can simulate pointer controls. If you look at World of Wii or something with motion, you can simulate pointer controls. And also, there is this scanner thing. I don't know what the hell that's for, but whatever. So with pointer controls, you can basically get touchscreen controls. Maybe it wouldn't be as intuitive or quick, but it's doable. So they can re-simulate that if they really want to. Most developers probably won't, but it is possible.
It's actually quite easy too, because all you have to do if it gets out of line is just hit the plus button, and it realigns.
I mean, that's how it worked in Skyward Sword. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, a game that's developed for touchscreen that's fast, like everything's right there. It's very fast. With pointer controls, it is still going to be slower to get to the same points. So that comes down to developer, but they can do that if it's like light touch. If it's not like extremely fast stuff, maybe that's how they'll do it. I don't know. That also means that while there may be an exclusive touchscreen game, there could also be exclusive docked games. Like, I don't know who would want to do that, because a lot of people may be turned off by that, the fact that they can't take it on the go with them, but they may exist in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true, because it could take, like, advantage of the...
Extra power.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's possible, but...
That might be what some, like, big third-party games might have to do if they were to, like, release the games, depending on, like, how big...
I don't know, man.
Well, the problem with that is then they kind of lose on that big gimmick that I think would...
I'm just saying,
feel like it would sell well, because all of a sudden, when it's no longer portable, every Japanese gamer is not going to want it, you know?
And I'm just saying, like, if they were to put their games, some games might only have to be on the TV, like they couldn't run.
It will be. That may be a thing for some games in the future, but I feel like it's gonna be few and far between because they're bastardizing themselves by doing that.
I think
decide
like
not to even put the game on the system because of that.
Yeah, exactly.
We've talked about it before. Look at games like Metal Gear Solid 5, Far Cry 4, Grand Theft Auto 5. They were all on systems that were a decade old. So they could fit any game. They could downsize any game unless they make it like a weird like Final Fantasy 15 where it's just like a weird like they developed that game for like 15 years or whatever, something ridiculous. They still have
trouble getting it to run on PS4.
Yeah, they still have trouble. That's different. But for most games, it's like you said, Sean. There will be some games where it'll be really difficult. Maybe they could use that, but I think it'll be far few in between. I think most games, if they want to port them, they will.
So, I think we should close out this podcast. Thank you, everyone, for coming and watching. Leave some questions, so if we can't answer them tonight, well, we can't because we're leaving. But for next time, we will address them in the next podcast on Sunday at 9 p.m. EST. So, guys, do you have any final thoughts or goodbyes for the night?
No, I'm good.
Okay, fine. All right.
Good podcast, man.
Yeah, it was a good talk. I am excited for Breath of the Wild because it's going to be amazing forever. I'm excited for the Switch. I'm excited for Mario Odyssey. I'm excited for Pokemon, Monster Hunter, Splatoon 2, Smash Brothers, and everything else. And maybe even Metroid Prime. So, all right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. See you later.
See ya.
Take care.
Later.